We'll see.
Do you guys want to get this thing rolling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Duska.
As
We're
much as I
pod
love talking about
love
law.
talking legal.
Yeah.
We're 29, Duska, right?
29. Yeah, something like that. I think. Wait, hold on. Let me get an official count.
Yeah, can we get an official count on that?
Yeah, hold on. Just fill this dead air with. Yeah, this is 29.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 29th edition of the Forward Pass podcast. We are back after the most unprecedented story in college football, maybe in college sports ever. Maybe We Are Marshall might be more impressive. Just the most improbable story in all of college sports. The story is Curt Cignetti and the Indiana Hoosiers cap off a 16-0 season and hoist the national championship with a Heisman winning quarterback, Fernando Mendoza. Guys, this was the losingest program of all time. They were 3-9 the season before Cignetti came in. The 3-year stretch before he got there, they were 9-27. This year, these are just some of the cool statistics about this run. This is the first 16-0 team since 1894 Yale. They have in their 5 games against playoff teams, so Oregon twice, Alabama, Ohio State, and Miami. The margin of victory is 88 points, 164-76. This is the school's first ever national championship. The last time a school won a national championship for the first time was Florida in 1996 with Steve Spurrier at the helm. Mendoza was ranked the 2,149th kid in the class of 2022. He was a 2-star on 247 composite rankings. He won the Heisman, and he's probably going to be the first overall pick. He also couldn't get a PWO to Miami, a preferred walk-on to his home spot. Insane storyline. This is the largest alumni base in America that has awoken. They took over the Rose Bowl. They took over Atlanta. They took over Coral Gables. This is Miami or Indiana's program in program history. They have 3 bowl wins. Sigs has 3 bowl wins this year, and they have 0 5-star players on the roster, which begs the question: is Curt Cignetti the best coach in college football? Would you guys like some statistics for me to back him up?
Go
Sure.
ahead.
Okay. He's 27-2 to start his career. The only coach in this stratosphere is Urban Meyer. When he started at Ohio State, he was 24-2. But Urban Meyer's already had 2 national championships at Florida, and he was going to Ohio State, which was already a blue blood program. Kirby at Georgia was 20. He started 21-7. Saban at Bama started 19-8. Dabo at Clemson started 15-12. And he's also doing more with less. As I said, they didn't have no 5 stars. He's 146-37 since he became a head football coach at IUP in 2011. Since James Madison moved to the FBS, he's 79-11, which is an 86% win percentage. His worst season is 6-5 Elon in 2018, but they still made the playoffs without their starting quarterback Davis Cheek or their backup quarterback Jay Green. So they were with their third string quarterback, still made the
Wow,
playoffs.
you know a lot about 2018 Elon.
I do. Weird. That is my case, along with the past 2 years, that there is a strong argument to say Curt Cignetti is the best coach in college football.
I have a question for you guys. So, do you think it is an advantage or a disadvantage? And should it be considered that obviously the methods for recruiting, talent acquisition, everything's a little different than it was back in the day? Say, for example, Urban Meyer, he had to do it in a lot different manner. If you look at it from above the board, where that there wasn't any backdoor deals or anything, do you guys think that it's more impressive or less impressive to do it in this era?
Less. I'm going to say less impressive solely because, well,
What do you
more
mean by
impressive
less
that
impressive?
Well,
Do you,
more
do you
impressive
mean
that he won a national title, but less impressive that he flipped the program this fast, in my opinion.
my
More
counter
impressive.
argument to that would be every other team has the opportunity to do the same exact thing.
Did Nick Saban have it in 2008 at Alabama? Because that's what you're comparing, and he didn't. My
We're
thing
talking,
is
I thought we
that
were talking currently.
no?
I'm talking about like what Dusk was talking about from like the different eras, and like Like I think it's more impressive that he's been able to that he won a national title in Indiana. Like in this era, insane, but also less impressive as a turnaround as a whole because in the old way, it would have been you would have had to sustain like 3 or 4 recruiting classes. And in this, he hit on 2 portal classes and completely flipped the program. That I think the longevity aspect is less impressive to me because like it can literally happen overnight.
I think the thing that's impressive about it is it's the school was Indiana, so he got there last year and brought in a portal class and brought some players over from JMU. They had a really successful season, made the playoffs, and then he followed it up this year, obviously, with not that different of a recruiting class. Like I'd say blue chip composite and like stuff we talk about all the time with the perceived level of talent you're bringing in. I'd say that it's pretty similar, and the fact that that's the situation he's working with, where you're a little limited recruiting at Indiana before Signetti. You're a little limited recruiting at Indiana versus the type of school like Alabama with the pedigree that it has. Even at Clemson, when Dabo got there, like they had won a national championship before. Like they had a brand and were recognized as a college football program. So I think that the fact that he did it at a school like Indiana and he had access to not the upper echelon, like top tier of recruits, I think that in and of itself makes it really impressive and probably the most impressive coaching job of all time because the level of like detail and confidence in the players you're bringing in when they're not as highly rated, being able to find and land talent at that level and being able to turn it into a team that can win a national championship, that's the most impressive part. Like he doesn't have access to the 5 stars and 4 stars that schools like Alabama and Nick Saban or Urban were able to bring in when they first got to their school. So
But
that's what's the most impressive thing for
but not
me.
even that. Think about I agree, Duska, and that this is part of it is out of 18 teams in the Big Ten, what was his team ranked in talent composite?
What was it?
18. And so although the disposal of the transfer portal is you can have that today as like Nick Saban didn't have that. Nick Saban had access to 4 and 5 stars that Kurt Signetti didn't have, and it just plays out in the composite rankings. So this is like a just pure coaching job, evaluation job, like everything that a football coach entails, like evaluating talent, developing talent, building a culture. It's a masterclass.
Yeah, I would say the most impressive thing is, like you were saying, Duska, the overall evaluation in that these other schools passed on these guys. And that's not necessarily passed on them, but he didn't have the opportunity to bring in these highly touted quarterbacks or receivers or offensive and defensive linemen at a school like Indiana, especially last year. And then to repeat that and to hit on 2 portal classes in a row when you consistently see high level programs like a Florida State who have had issues replicating success in the transfer portal. And I think there is an argument to be made that in this day and age, it is equally impressive to continually evaluate talent and develop that talent at a really high level in a transfer portal class with a school like Indiana where you don't necessarily have the ability to recruit those top 5 position players in the portal and yet still find instant playmakers and guys that lead you to the playoff in an 11-1 season and then in the next season run the table and set the record for most wins in a single season.
And I think I mean, just to back up kind of what we've been saying, I think it's tough to directly compare the two because Nick Saban didn't have access. If we're talking about Nick Saban, he didn't his first recruiting class, he did not have access to the portal, so he couldn't bring in guys that had playing experience and could hit the field right away. So that's an advantage Signetti had. But his first recruiting class at Alabama, which he had 7 weeks to put together, was ranked the number 10 nationally. And then the next year, he signed the number 1 recruiting class in 2008. So like we were saying, the access to 4 and 5 stars, I know didn't directly lead to people that could hit the field right away. I'm sure some true freshmen played on that team, but the overall impact it would have had down the line, like him signing the number 10 and number 1 classes back to back, like that's what that's the type of advantage that he would have had there. And I mean, you also can't take away the fact that he was the one that ultimately put those classes together and was able to bring those guys in and sell his vision for Alabama. But I think that it being Alabama also provided a bit of an advantage.
I want to talk about how well coached this team was, and we're talking about like this is the best coaching job maybe we've ever seen. So on the fake punt where Kamara blocked, I mean not the fake punt, on the blocked punt where Kamara blocks the punt, they're in base defense. And a little personal anecdote about punt team. When you're facing the base defense, the tackle on the special teams, which I played tackle on punt, I would have to go block the defensive end. And when you're playing base defense, you're thinking, okay, like they're not coming after you. But what makes it hard is if the defensive ends rush as hard as they possibly can, because you've got me, 185 pounds, going against Ashland. There's a guy, Michael Shimmick, who this year we're in the IUP Ashland game. He's an All-American, D2 All-American, 15 sacks, bull rushes me, runs through my face, and then murders my teammate, my buddy Parker, who's the punt shield. And so like, but a lot of times when you play base defenses, it's like a play they don't even rush, and it's a free release. It just depends on how good the team is coached and how willing each player is able to play. Out of 150 plays, you don't know. It's a wonderful strategy for Coach Ledecky. Out of 150 plays, you don't know which 5 to 10 plays are going to make a wild difference in a football game. Tom Brady's newsletter was talking about. I was reading it today. Like you never know which plays those are, which is why you have to condition yourself to play full effort, like smart, fast, discipline every single play for the betterment of the team, because you don't know when that play will come. And when you throw your base defense out on the punt, you're just ideologically, you're just trying to stop the fake. You're saying we're going to put our base defense out there, so whatever fake they have, we're not going to bring a rush team because they might run the fake because it was whatever 4th and 2, and they block a punt and score a touchdown on that play. How big was that play? That won the game. That was the edge. And so a lot of teams, they don't even play hard enough to get that. Most defensive ends don't rush up the field and try to run through their number 6 on Miami was way undersized compared to Kamara. He was not an offensive tackle. He ran through his face, put pressure on them, and made a good play, and then you win the game. So I just think it's amazing what they're able to do.
Yeah, I mean, oh, go ahead, Arch.
No, you got it.
I was just gonna say I have a couple more fun things. Um, I mean, I think the game played out kind of how we expected it to. Both teams' strengths kind of shine through. Like if you look at Miami's run game, and I think they protected really well. Indiana, we've talked about their special teams, their linebacker play, their DBs. Like they showed up and were had really all of those units had really strong performances. Miami's pass rush was able to get home. Like all of the strengths that we would typically talk about these two teams, they showed through. So it was kind of, you knew that you were going to get the outcome that was probably the most accurate because you saw the best of both teams. So I think Indiana winning indicates that they were the best team, and I mean that's kind of been the case all year. So I think that was an interesting part of the game that I'm glad that that's kind of how it played out. And then also the Carson Beck pick was, I mean, pretty inevitable. I feel like
what a poetic ending.
Yeah, I feel like that was pretty expected, and nobody was really surprised when that happened. And I saw a funny tweet that he's lost 6 games as a starter in his college career, and 4 of them ended with him throwing an interception with an opportunity to win the game. And I mean, Carson Beck is a really, really good college quarterback, but his college career is kind of defined by some of those moments. So unfortunate for him, but I think the game, overarching point, the game was really good in the sense that we got the best, and the best punch was thrown by both teams. So that was exciting.
Yeah, Charlie, I like you said poetic, and I think that you could just describe this game for Indiana overall as poetic. I think that just the way that the game played out kind of encapsulates and highlights Indiana's strengths as an overall just cohesive unit, to where in the first half they were able to move the ball relatively well offensively, um, and their defense held their own. And then, in the second half when, Miami completely outplayed them in the second half, especially offensively, special teams makes a play. And then you have your quarterback who isn't this super flashy, He won the Heisman. He's going to be the first overall pick. But when you think of elite Heisman quarterbacks looking back, I don't know if Mendoza will be in the same sentence as guys like Burrow or a Johnny Manziel, guys that were electrifying. And Mendoza kind of did exactly what he needed to in the playoff and was almost like a sniper in that he was calm and strike when he was needed to. And then him scoring on the 4th and 5, and then the defense making an incredible interception on that last drive. I think just the way that the game played out with all 3 units of the team contributing to the win just really put a bow on how strong this team was as an overall unit and just shines a light on how well coached, like you just said, Charlie, they were. And it's just a really poetic way to have everyone contribute at the highest stage and take part in winning a national championship.
Yeah, I was gonna talk a little bit about I thought that kind of Miami, I guess in the first half, it's up for debate, but I think they played better on a down-to-down basis than than Indiana did. Like success on defense, success on offense. Like obviously Indiana had the big explosives or like turning point plays, which is like the block punt for the touchdown.
Does the EPA per play kind of bear that out?
I don't know, but I didn't look at that yet, but I have to imagine that it does because I think that like there was more, at least and definitely in the second half for Miami's offense compared to Indiana's offense, there was definitely Miami was having more success. Obviously, Miami had some explosives too with the Fletcher run. I thought that Cristobal kind of. I think both coaches did, like they both had some miscues. Signetti with the timeouts in the fourth quarter in the second half. I think Cristobal's main one. I hated the field goal attempt before half with a guy that. Like you can't rely on your kickers, and you settle at a point that you had your best drive all game. Clock management was also issue there because they ran it down to 30 seconds. So it was just weird. It was weird clock management there. And like y'all said, I think it was just poetic that Beck threw that interception to end it because he threw the exact same throw against Alabama in 2024, whenever Georgia was coming back in Bryant Denny, and he threw a meatball sub to end the game. So it was good that he threw a po' boy this time. But yeah, get him out of college.
I think it's
his 7th year.
Yeah, apparently.
to go in as we're gonna keep hitting on the coaching, like to see what Indiana did with super average tackle and edge play is just insane because they're manufacturing offense out there. Like they cannot drop back pass. There is no drop back pass. They run the ball. It's quick game. It's back shoulder throws. Back shoulder throws. The quarterback's on 3 and a hitch. Ball's out. So he takes 1 step, 2 step, 3 step back. He hitches. He throws. Sometimes he doesn't even hitch. So like the ball's coming out so quick. It had to because they could not block the edge rushers. And then on the other side, dude, Beck had all day to throw. They didn't pressure him. The only time they pressured him was on simulated pressures with linebackers. You saw the Aiden Fisher, blitzes with linebackers for Elijah Hardy, or just stunts. Like they put Kamara on this as on the shade, stand up on the nose, and he went to work. So other than that, they were literally manufacturing defensive pressure, and they could not blitz the quarter. They could not get pressure on Carson Beck. Just the way Miami was able to get pressure on Mendoza is just let's pin our ears back. Let's just go one-on-one at these tackles. And like Miami and Indiana does not have that personnel. You know, the four highest paid positions in the NFL are quarterback, tackle, edge rusher, and receiver. And so that the NFL kind of shows you where their money is being spent on what the most important 4 positions are in the game of football. And Indiana's average at both of them, tackle and edge. So I just think that's another way. And Arch, I disagree with the timeouts a little bit because on one of the timeouts that Signetti took, they call the draw play and they score a touchdown. So one timeout leads to a touchdown. The second timeout, he gets the defense settled down, and he's able to they get a pick the very next play. So, you know, I thought the timeout in the 2-minute drill on Beck, I thought that was wonderfully placed because you could tell like Miami was in a rhythm. And right after that Landino, I thought that was kind of a bullshit roughing the passer, but I really like that timeout call. So I kind of disagree with
Agree, Charlie.
timeouts.
I thought that was a good timeout on defense.
And on
Are
offense.
you, are you talking about in the fourth quarter
Mm-hmm. And
on
the
the
third
2-minute
quarter.
drill?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not talking about that one. I was solely talking about the one. Like hindsight's always 2020. He called like they had an issue with like what they were wanting to do, and then they called a timeout. And yeah, they scored a touchdown on that play. But like I think it was just you look at that play completely differently. And like the time, like and you could have used that timeout. And all I was saying is that was probably I wasn't saying it was that was definitely Sig's worst moment of the night though. Like not being, I guess, having conviction with his decision on either to go forward or kick the field goal that caused him to do the timeout because they
You know,
probably could have gotten a playoff, but I mean, they would have snapped it with like 1 second left and communication would have been off.
I think sometimes it's gamesmanship, especially when like the players are in the huddle on fourth down. There's like 27 seconds on the play clock. And sometimes it's just nice to gather the guys around, like, all right, we're going for this. This is a huge play. Like, let's execute, let's refocus, let's be like our very best selves. I think it's there's times when going for it on fourth down, the timeout is definitely gamesmanship. And especially because he's like, I don't want to be down again. We're going up 10 if this works. So like either I could use this now for gamesmanship or like I kick the field goal and I have to use these timeouts later when Mendoza has to lead a heroic like end of the game drive.
Yeah. I mean, I just said that I thought that was his worst of the night, like his worst like moment, because usually you don't really see him blunder or like have like not blunder, but have like an issue like that with the team where he's just not firm in his decision making.
Also, Charlie Becker, guys.
I wanted to say, like, I think the production stats don't bear this out, but I think the trio of Surratt, Cooper, Becker, and I mean, I looked it up just to kind of put them in perspective with compared to other receiving cores, even just this year in college football, like the production in terms of receptions and yards from the three of them, it doesn't really stack up. Even to Miami had more with their trio of Mary and Tony and Daniels, but I think that this is sneakily one of the best receiving cores in college football, maybe one of the best ones, maybe not in terms of transitioning to NFL production, but in terms of college and them being able to make huge plays when needed and do all the things they need to do for their team. I think this is one of the best trios of wide receivers we've seen. Like think back to some of the insane plays that they've made this year, like the Becker 4th and 5 catch in this game. And then the other one that jumps right to the top of my mind is the Omar Cooper Penn State, one of the craziest catches I've ever seen in my entire life. I think this trio deserves so much credit for what Indiana's been able to do this year, and I think that they should be remembered in that light because I think this is one of the best three we've seen in terms of college being able to just make big plays in college football. I think this is one of the best three we've seen, and like you
Yeah.
can always go to these guys and rely on them.
And they don't ask them to be like savant route runners besides Omar Cooper Jr. Well, first off, Omar Cooper Jr., I think he projects well in the NFL because he has the highest tackle breaking rate of all receivers in college. So like the advanced analytics really like Omar Cooper Jr. His like separation per route is also in the elite echelon of receivers. And then they don't ask Becker and Surratt to be these route running savants where like, hey, we need you to run a 15-yard in man coverage, or we need you to run like a post corner. It's we need you to run the back shoulder fade and be really good at that because that's what we're throwing. The Kurt Cignetti offense, we've talked about this all year. It's not a man beating offense where they line up in bunch and run mesh and like do all that stuff. Dude, they line up wide, they see man coverage, they throw the back shoulder fade. Stop it.
And you can't.
And you can.
I also have just one funny stat. So Kurt Cignetti, Indiana never had a 10-win season before Kurt Cignetti got there, and now they've had two and have gone on to win a national championship. And I was just looking at the history of their programs and records from the onset of Indiana's football program, and there was one guy that stuck out in particular, and this guy has a strong legacy in college football and is regarded very highly by basically every college football fan. His name's Lee Corso. Everyone's familiar with him, but I don't know. I was never aware of this before doing a little research, but Lee Corso's record at Indiana, he was there from 1973 to 1982, 41, 68, and 2. They won one bowl game in 1979 when they went 8-4. They won the Holiday Bowl. So just putting the program in perspective, one, it's funny that Lee Corso's tenure there was that bad, and this program was pretty cursed before Signetti got there. But also just the fact that they've won a national championship is kind of just it's still hard to wrap my head around. But I mean it's pretty cool that you were able to see a program that was that down in the dumps literally get to the top of the mountain. So it's just the Lee Corso stats funny to me.
Yeah, I mean, and I think they're here to stay. I think this is a school that I think can overtake what Penn State was in the Big Ten in terms of like maybe not Ohio State, but like in that tier right below. I don't think they're going anywhere as long as Signetti's there, and they're going to have some coordinator turnover with Haynes and Shanahan at some point. I hope Shanahan to Pitt in like 2 years. Give me that. What you like that, Sam?
Love it.
Yeah. So, but either way, they're going to lose those guys. I just don't think it's going to matter until Sig is ready to hang them up. I think the Big Ten is just positioned super well right now in terms of it just being a pay for play league. A play for play sport, a pay for play sport. You look at the head coaches out there now. Like I don't see Whittingham doing horrible at Michigan. Obviously, you have Ryan Day. Even speaking of teams like up north with money, like Notre Dame's not going anywhere. There's just USC just signed the number one recruiter. They just bought the number one recruiting class in all of college football this year. So I just think the Big Ten is well positioned in this new era because they have line pockets that some of the SEC schools don't have.
Yeah, Saban's always pretty vocal about the fact that the Big Ten's wealthier Northeastern alumni base allows them to be more elite at the top end with your Ohio States, Michigans, USC, like you just mentioned, Charlie.
Well, now you got the LA. It's not even the Northeast. It's the West
Right.
now. Now you've got all the money out in Palo Alto. Like, I mean, obviously in Stanford and Cal just are in the ACC. I don't know how much of those resources are going to be used to propel themselves to ACC championships, but they could be a sneaky ACC squad if they got things right down there. I don't know how much you guys believe in Andrew Luck, but I'm somewhat a believer, somewhat of a stockholder of the future of Stanford football. But what were you saying, Duska?
I was just gonna say, I know this is the current state of college football, and thinking about projecting into the future, if it stays this way, yes, that's how things will trend. But I think at some point, and the reason I wouldn't be that worried if I was an SEC fan at a big land grant university like a South Carolina, I wouldn't be that worried about it because I think yes, this is pay for play is prevalent now, and investment into your football program is always going to be an important factor in your success. But the being able to directly pay players and for Miami to be able to go and tamper with Darian Mensah and potentially give him $10 million like that, you would hope is going to go away. And the gap between schools that have all of these super rich, super famous alumni, like Mark Cuban for Indiana, you'd hope that their ability to impact player acquisition in that way would be limited and a little bit more restriction, like some type of salary cap and some type of incentive system for guys to stay at schools. Like you'd hope that that's not that distantly far in the future, and that this landscape that we're projecting into where these Big Ten schools that have really great academics and really rich alumni that can give money to their football program to field a team, you'd hope that that's not as much of a factor in the long run. It's probably going to be the case for at least the next maybe 5 years before we get regulation for stuff like this, but hopefully that's not like the long-term direction of the sport because at some point it's going to erode the foundation that college football is, the things that make college football great. That's going to get eroded at some point if it just becomes a pay-for-play sport. So yes, this is the current landscape, and yeah, a school like Stanford that's like that prestigious academically and has a lot of good alumni, they'll have an advantage over what ACC team is in bad shape. That's a big land grant
Boston
school.
College.
Yeah, or maybe like a West Virginia. Schools like that, hopefully that advantage isn't as prevalent once you get a little more restriction.
Now, while it is prevalent though, if you're an SEC fan and you're a diehard, what you should really do is go on Etsy or Amazon or wherever and buy Texas gear because they just paid their roster $40 million. So they have the highest paid roster in all of college football as of now.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. $40 million.
They got a Ferrari roster with a Tacoma head coach, so we're not worried about him.
Saw him in the flesh on Sunday.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
dude, that's sick, Sam. How was he? Was he athletic in that class or no?
Dude, it was the hardest workout class I've ever done in my entire life.
What was it,
But
Pilates?
it was like weighted Pilates, like hit Pilates. It was like insane. It was
Did
heated.
you
go with
say
the
what's
girl?
up or no?
Yeah, I said hi. I wasn't like fanboy. I was like, hey. He was like, that was a
Yeah.
tough class. So yeah.
Oh, that's sick, dude.
I would
Hey,
love to get a
Sam,
Sark
big South
handshake.
Carolina fan here. Just wondering whenever we're gonna whoop your ass. Get us on the schedule.
Oh, that would have been so good. Yeah,
That's
you're
hilarious. How is he doing in the class?
Dude, he's ripped.
Is he ripped?
I didn't from what the way he looks on TV does not.
He
He's
looks like a bag of
short.
milk. Yeah.
Yeah, he's short in person.
He's always
all
wearing like a
jacked up.
baggy hoodie and a puffer
Yeah.
vest.
So the guys he can get after it.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was right in the front of the class. Apparently, he goes like all the time.
How about it? Good on him. Dude.
I would keep going to that and find my in with the Texas football program.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't,
Sam. I mean,
Yeah, it's
dude,
probably
what if
expensive.
$150. It's
Yeah,
I only
yeah.
did it because I was with.
That's
doing it with
a
someone.
long-term investment though.
Yeah, it's like 150 for like
Oh, yeah, that's brutal.
it's
8
let's
classes a month.
use the company card and see if he'd hop on 10 minutes of the pod. Yeah. That might be what
That
he
would be a
needs.
huge get for us.
Right,
That
that
would
would
boost
be
the numbers
huge.
really quickly.
Yeah.
Sam, is that like a solid core or is it like a
kind of.
Like-
It wasn't like a reformer Pilates. It was literally. It was like
Oh.
a hybrid of CrossFit and hot yoga.
Well, open invitation to Steve Sarkisian if he ever wants to come on this podcast. He's welcome to at any time. We'll draw at the drop of a hat. We can be here for an interview.
just
Yeah.
tell him don't watch the clip I said about 2 minutes ago.
Disregard everything we've said
Yeah,
about
the
him,
Tacoma,
including Arch calling him a Tacoma.
Ferrari roster Tacoma coach. Like, we didn't mean that.
I mean, that's don't you drive a Tacoma? That's kind of
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I didn't really think that part through. I should have said something else.